Good morning, everyone. I'm Isami Kantishi. I'm a trainer at PNC Oil Pro. Today, I would show you a course about personal protective equipment. This course is about personal protective equipment customized by Isami Kantishi. This course for one day. You have 1 year access to EPC 365 for discussions, and when you complete the course, you have skills level after achieving the 18 scores. And this program is well suitable to plant managers, HSE engineering, and employees. And the objective of this course is to give practical understanding of the PPE, personal protective equipment. This about the trainer. The profile of trainer is Kantishi is have a bachelor degrees in safety industry and master degrees in quality safety environment, and he has qualification and certification as NIBOSH agency. He is a certificate in health and safety, occupational health and safety, and he is a trainer at YAPI, Institute Algerian of Petrol in Algeria, and at the UNSP group, and have some training to permit to work. This about experience of the trainer. In 2007-2008, he works at COSIDA organization, and 2008-2009 at SARPI, and 2009-2018 at UNSP in production division at Sonatrach, and today he is a trainer at YAPI. The course is about personal protective equipment. OSHA requires employees to protect their employees from workplace hazards through the use of engineering or work practice control. When these controls are not feasible or do not provide sufficient protection, the use of personal protective equipment is required. This is the objective of the course. Is about hierarchy of control, types of PPE, and PPE trainer requirement, and employer and employee responsibilities, and hazard recognition activity. Here is about protecting employees, and in this slide you explain employer must protect employees, assess workplace, and eliminate and reduce hazard using engineering control and administrative control, and then use of appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE. And remember, PPE is the last level of control. In the objective of the course, you have described the hierarchy of control as it relates to personal protective equipment, and identify types of personal protective equipment utilized in constructions, and explain personal protective equipment training requirement. Explain the responsibilities of employees and employer regarding personal protective equipment. This is about the hierarchy of control. The hierarchy of control method graphic illustrate the graphic is illustrate the effectiveness of the system used to prevent and control hazard, elimination, substitution, and provide the highest level of protection against hazard. The hazard is eliminated from the workplace, or a safer item or substance is substituted for more hazardous item or substance. Engineering control, which the engineering control are the second most effective means of protecting employees from hazards, followed by administrative and work practice control. PPE, last resort, it's the last effective. This is about engineering control. physical changes to workplace, such as isolation, ventilation, equipment modification, and others. Engine control requires a physical change as I means to workplace based on the following principles. It's feasible, design to facility, equipment or process to remove the hazard. It removal is if not removal is not feasible. Includes the hazard to prevent exposure in normal operation. Where complete inclusion is not feasible, establish barrier or local ventilation to reduce exposure to the hazard in normal operation. This is some examples of about engineering, and an example about isolation. A hazard is included prohibiting exposure to worker, and ventilation such as are extensions to reduce atmospheric hazard, and equipment modification. An example, reduce the hazard through design of the equipment or attachment, such as reduce vibration, dust collection system, noise reduction, etc. Administrative control. Administrative control requires workers to do something, proper procedure, inspection and maintenance, housekeeping and supervision, regulated area, limit exposure by time or distance. And this slide, the explanation of this slide is administrative control induce work practice requires the work to or employer to do something. Example, as I said, proper procedure, workplace rules and other operation specific rules, inspection and maintenance, and such as regularly inspect tools and equipment, keep them well maintained, remove from service or any damaged or broken items, housekeeping, supervision, regulated area, designating area for lunch and break times, no eating, drinking, smoking, and applying cosmetic in workplace. Limit exposure by time and distance. Shorten amount of time a worker is exposed to task involving the hazard distance hazard from worker. Examples of administrative control that could be used to reduce noise exposure are listed here. Note, noise protection will be further discussed later in this presentation. And some examples about administrative control as shown in this slide. Example, operate noisy machine during shifts when fewer people are exposed, limit the amount of time a person spends at a noisy source, provide quiet area where worker can gain relief from hazardous noise sources, control noise exposure through distance. When exposure to hazard cannot be energized completely out of normal operations or maintenance work, and when safe work practices and other forms of administrative control cannot be provided sufficient additional protection, a supplementary method of control is to the use of protective clothing or equipment. This is collectively called personal protective equipment or PPE, may also be appropriate for controlling hazard, while engineering and work practice control are being installed. This is about head protection. Frequent causes of head injuries: object striking head striking object, contact with exposed energized electrical contact. Protecting employees from potential head injuries is a key element of any safety program. A head injury can impair an employee for life, or it can be fatal. Wearing a safety helmet or hard hat is one of the easiest ways to protect an employee's head from injury. Head hats can protect employees from impact and penetration hazard, as well as from electrical shock and burn hazards. Employer must ensure that their employees wear head protection if any of the following apply: object might fall from above and strike them on the head. They might bump their heads against fixed objects such as exposed pipes or beams, or there is a possibility of accidental head contact with electrical hazard. This is a classes of hard hats. Class G general services, example building construction and shipbuilding and lumbering and manufacturing. Good impact protection, limited voltage protection, proof tested at 2200 volts. Let's explain this slide. There are many types of hard hats available in the marketplace today. In addition to selecting protective headgear that meets American national standard requirement, employer should ensure the employees wear hard hats that provide appropriate protection against potential workplace hazards. It's important for employer to understand all potential hazards when making this selection, including electrical hazard. This can be done through a comprehensive hazard analysis and awareness of the different types of protective headgear available. Class G hard hats are intended for general service use, such as building construction, shipbuilding, lumbering, and manufacturing. Class G hard hats provide good impact protection but limited voltage protection, proof tested to 2200 volts. Class E, it's usually in classes of hard hats. Class E electrical work, protect against falling object, protect against high voltage shock burns, proof tested at 2000 voltage. Class E hard hats are designed for electrical utility work. They protect against falling object and provide protection against conductors with higher voltage level. Class C conductive, designed for comfort, offers limited protection, protects heads that may bump against fixed object, does not protect against falling object or electrical hazard. Let's explain this slide. Class C hard hats provide limited protection, mostly from bumps against fixed object. Class C hard hats do not provide any protection against electrical hazard. Eye and face protection. Common causes of eye injuries such as dust, flying of particles, harmful chemicals in intense light, welding laser. Let's explain this slide. Employees can be exposed to a large number of hazards that pose danger to their eyes and face. OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration, requires employers to ensure that employees have appropriate eye or face protection if they are exposed to eye or face hazard from flying particles, molten metal, liquid chemicals, acids, or caustics, liquids, chemical gases, or vapors, potentially infected material, or potentially harmful light radiation. Eye and face protection, it's in the standard 1926-102 I2, required by this part shall meet the requirements specified in American National Standards Institute Z 87 1 1968, practice for occupational and educational eye and face protection. Safety glasses. Selecting eye and face protection meet the requirements of American National Standard Institute Z 187 elements to consider: ability to protect, fit and comfort, vision and movement not restricted, durable and cleanable, other PPE and not restricted. Let's explain this slide. Eye and face protection equipment required by this part shall meet the requirements specific in the Standard American National Standard Institute, and selecting the most suitable eye and face protection for employees should take into consideration the following elements. Ability to protect against specific workplace hazard should fit properly and be reasonably comfortable to wear, should provide unrestricted vision and movement, should be durable and cleanable, and should allow unrestricted functioning of any other required PPE. Usually in the slide of safety glasses, protect against flying particles from wood, metal, cement, plastics, or other materials, airborne particles such as ashes, dust, embers, and sandblast, grit, paint, or other materials. The explanation of this slide is safety spectacles are intended to shield the wearer's eyes from impact hazards such as flying fragments, objects, large ships, and particles. Workers are required to use eye safety spectacles with side shields when there is a hazard from flying object. No side shield spectacles are not acceptable eye protection from impact hazard. The frames of safety spectacles are constructed of metal and/or plastic and can be fitted with either corrective or plano impact resistance lenses. Side shields may be incorporated into the frames of safety spectacles when needed. Consider each component of safety spectacles when selecting the appropriate device for your workplace. OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration, eye and protection, eye and face protection. It's give more information. Goggles protect eyes, sockets, and facial area around eyes from impact, dust, splashes. Goggles or other eye protection may fit over corrective lenses, may not interfere with the function of the glasses. The explanation of this slide is goggles are tight-fitting eye protection that completely cover the eyes, eye sockets, and the facial area immediately surrounding the eye and provide protection from impact, dust, and splashes. For some goggles will fit with this about welding shields, protect eyes from burns, infrared light, intense reading light, protect face and eyes from flying sparks, metal sputter, slag. Let's explain the slide about construction of vulcanized fiber or fiberglass and fitted with the filter lens. It's the fabricate the welding shield, and it's about they also protect both the eyes and face from flying sparks, metal sputter, and slag chips produced during welding, brazing, soldering, and cutting operation. Face shields protect face from noises, dust, and potential splashes or sprays of hazardous liquids. Shields do not protect from impact hazard unless so rated. Shields are for face protection, not eye protection. To protect the eyes, wear safety glasses with side shields under the face shield. Warning: employees who wear corrective lenses. Workers who wear prescription glasses must also wear required eye protections. This is about OSHA Quick Card. Protect yourself in the respiratories is respiratory protection. This about hearing protection. If the exposure is to over 85 decibel can cause hearing loss, and hearing protection required at 1990 decibel. Effective hearing conservation program. This to explain this diagram. Noise or unwanted sound is one of the most common health problems in the worldwide workplace. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health estimates that 30 million workers in the USA, United States, are exposed to hazardous noise. Exposure to high levels of noise may cause hearing loss, create physical and psychological stress, reduce productivity, interfere with communication, and contribute to accidents and injuries by making it difficult to hear warning signals. OSHA requires employers to determine if workers are exposed to excessive noise in the workplace. If so, the employer must implement feasible engineering and administrative control to eliminate or reduce hazardous levels of noise where controls are not sufficient. Employer must implement an effective hearing conservation program. Hearing protection. This slide shows some examples about hearing protection: disposable foam plugs, modeled earplugs, noise cancelling earplugs, and ear muff. Considering noise reducing rate and air of devices. Hearing protection devices HPTS are considered the last option to control exposure to noise. HPDS are generally used during the necessary time it takes to implement engineering and administrative control, or when such controls are not feasible. This slide shows some examples of hearing protection device. As I said, the noise reduction rating of hearing protectors requires labeling on the hearing protector package. Manufacturers must identify the noise reduction capability of the product through laboratory derived numerical estimate of the attention achieved by the product. Hand and arm protection. Employer must provide hand protection when employees are exposed to hazard, such as skin absorption of harmful substance, severe cuts or laceration, severe abrasion, puncture, chemical and terminal burns, harmful temperature, and temperature extreme. If a workplace hazard assessment reveals that employees face potential injury to hands and arms that cannot be eliminated through engineering or administrative control or practice control, employer must ensure that employees wear appropriate protection. Potential hazards include skin absorption of harmful substance, chemical or terminal burns, electrical dangers, abrasion, cuts, punctures, and fracture and amputation. Protective equipment include gloves, fingers guard, and arm covering or elbow length gloves. There are many types of gloves available today to protect against a wide variety of hazards. The nature of the hazard and the operation involved will affect the selection of gloves. A variety of potential occupational hand injuries makes selecting the right pair of gloves challenging. It's essential that employees use gloves specially designed for hazards and tasks found in their workplace, because gloves designed for one function might not protect against a different function, even though they may appear to be an appropriate protective device. The following are examples of some Factors that might influence the selection of protective gloves for a workplace: type of chemical handling, nature of contact, duration of contact, area requiring protection, hand only, forearm, arm, grip requirement, dry, weight, oily, terminal protection, size and comfort, abrasion resistance requirement. Gloves made from a wide variety of material are designed for many types of workplace hazard. And generally, gloves fall into four groups. What's these groups? Gloves made of leather, canvas, or metal mesh, fabric and coated fabric gloves, chemical and liquid resistance gloves, insulating rubber gloves, and following section on electrical protection equipment for data equipment requirement on the selection, use, and care of insulating rubber gloves. Foot and leg protection. Causes of foot injury: heavy objects, sharp objects, molten or metal, hot surfaces, slippery or wet surfaces, and electrical hazard. Employees who face possible foot or leg injury from falling or rolling objects or from crashing or penetrating materials should wear protective footwear. Also, employees whose work involves exposure to hot substance or corrosive or potential material must have protective gear to cover exposed body part, including legs and feet. Example of situations in which an employee should wear foot and leg or leg protection include: when heavy objects such as barrels or tools might roll onto or fall on the employee's feet; working with sharp objects such as nails or spikes that could pierce the soles or uppers of ordinary shoes; exposure to molten metal that might splash off on feet or legs; working on or around hot, wet, or slippery surfaces; and working when electrical hazards are present. Foot and leg protection examples: impact resistance to and or instep, steel, composite; hit resistance slows, metal shanks, especially footwear may be needed; metatarsal guard, liquid or chemical resistance; and conductive or non-conductive equipment. Safety shoes have impact resistance to and heat resistance slough that protect the feet against hot work surfaces, commonly in roofing, paving, and hot metal industry. The metal insoles of some safety shoes protect against puncture, wounding, and safety shoes may also be designed to be electrical conductive to prevent the build-up of static electricity in areas with the potential for explosive atmosphere, or non-conductive to protect workers from workplace hazard in electrical hazard. Body protection. Cause of bodily injuries: intense heat, spill of hot metals or hot liquid, impacts from tools, machinery, or material, sharp object, and hazardous chemical contact with potentially infectious materials, and radiations. This is some examples about body protection. This slide shows some training about PPE, personal protective equipment, why personal protective equipment is necessary, and how personal protective equipment will protect the employees, what PPE cannot be do, and when and how to wear PPE, how to identify signs of wear and tear, how to clean and disinfect PPE when PPE is worn out, and how to properly dispose of PPE. Responsibilities: employer must assess hazard, select appropriate PPE, and determine when to use. Provide some PPE at no cost to employees. Make sure that employees' own PPE is adequate. properly maintained and sanitary, train employees and enforce use of PPE. Usually in responsibilities, employees must actively participate in training, consistently use PPE as prescribed, properly maintain, inspect, clean, and store PPE, and immediately replace damaged PPE. Identify hazard recognition, identify hazard and PPE needed. This shows some hazard to identify in the workplace. Usually it's a hazard, how to recognize or identify hazard in the workplace. This slide shows identify hazard and PPE needed, such as a respiratory program. Identify hazard and PPE needed in this picture shows some machinery have a demolition of a building. Always remember, employer must assess the workplace for hazard, use engineering and work practice control to eliminate or reduce hazard, and select and provide appropriate PPE at no cost to employees to protect them. This is some knowledge check. 1. First question, who is responsible for providing PPE? The employer, the employee, OSHA, or workers' compensation? And second question is common causes of foot injury include crushing, penetration, molten metal, chemicals, slippery surface, and sharp object. True or false? Third question, safety control must meet the following order of priority: substitution, PPE, work around and administrative, work around, stop work, PPE and engineering control, stop work, PPE, engineering and substitution, substitution and engineering control, and PPE. Which type of hard hat would provide the most protection from electrical hazard? The answer is class E. Question 5. The need for hearing protection is charged at which decibel level? The answer is when it exceeds 90 decibel. Question 6. Who is responsible for providing specialized work footwear? The answer is the employer. 7th question. Which of the following is considered approved eye protection? Glasses meeting American National Standard Institute Standard Z87. The last question, 8th question. Which of the following is not considered PPE? Rubber gloves, glasses meeting American National Standard Institute Z87, sports shoes, hearing muffs. The answer is C, sports shoes. This about the company PMC Oil Pro or Office 365, our typical workshop, safety engineering, integrity management, HSE management system. This slide shows the director of ADIP training and Mr. Frederick Salimi, technical safety manager of PMC Oil Pro. This some picture about customized training with 3D model simulator and ADIP monitor. Customized training with expert support, gap analysis, and action plan. This picture about some certificate, example certificate delivered by ADIP Group and PMC Oil Pro. This is an example about when you complete the course about PPE, personal protective equipment. You can ADIP Academy deliver certificate such as this certificate given to Mr. Frederick Salimi in the course Fundamentals of Process Safety Management. This about the domain or field of PMC Oil Pro: engineering, process safety monitoring, occupational health and safety, risk assessment, identification of critical systems, audit and expert witness, and the location in the Google map. Finally, I thank you so much for the attention in this course, and you have a good things and information about personal protective equipment. Have a good day.